With pleasure to be here. And let's start immediately. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. A fair is always difficult to speak in. The noise is terrible in general. So I hope that you can understand me enough to make this work. So what I was thinking of discussing with you is basically, if you look around, what we all make in this stuff, then ultimately I would like to discuss that in a way. Is it good what we make? Is it from made to make and will make? Is a kind of small step to imagine how this could be more integrated. It's a research that we're doing as we speak in Delft and in Prague and in Melbourne. It's not finished. It will just suggestions. It will come out later. But what I will do is to give actually a sequence of what I will call Biotopia, where things are blended, where things are merged, where things collaborate in a material way. But there's a lot of things to say before that. So, in order to give you the perspective of that operation, what I would like to share with you, these are the 10 chapters that I will go through. So, I use, of course, this word of curiosity. If you look here, and I use it more in my lectures last time, and also this word is what's next feeling is what we share. Of course, everybody is doing this to check out if you do it through AI, and to compensate that a little bit what we are doing. So if you Google my name and airport Prague, for instance, what we were competing or we won actually 2 weeks ago, then you get this image. It's I never knew that this would be me. Is what it. So that is what I learned. So how true is AI? Is what this image asks if I would do that, and I give you somehow an answer in this construction that I would like to bring to you. So, in order to, so some of you know us. This is simply what I put with some offices, some people. I would like to stress also our collaboration with the university. In this case, the Y Factory. Two things in order to face the future. We have three steps to do. One is speculation and a theoretical model. That means if you have a city, one thing changes. How does the city change? Is what this is showing. If you apply it in an environment, you can see the contextual components. And if you bring it together, basically in software, and there's our AI component in it. It's more transparent. It's more contributing in the end to it. Then this is happening. So here are some of the titles of that future city. But what I want to show is basically one aspect of that they are dealing with evolution. I mean, that's a while ago that I made this. I mean, almost 14, 15 years ago. And we are intending to make the next one in a way that is about the collaboration with the Y Factory. It is about the word evolutionary. So instead of excursions on capacities, it's about time that I would like to understand better as if I were a landscape architect. And that means that 3 becomes 4 as a dimension that we can add to that. And the core of it is that somehow it wants to illustrate the method of acting and to be quicker and to be more together and to interfere, one could say. So how to do that? This is what happens when you look to the Time magazine and he dies, then they put this on the front cover, which I find courageous somehow, kind of nice that if you are asked and you are thinking so much about future technology that immediately that this is an honor that you on your shoulders this burden is there of our society to bring it further. Another quote which I think is important in Sapiens is that we talk about movement a lot, but that Harari says, in other words, with a question somewhere central in the book, has history direction? And there is a yes to it. There's a big discussion, I guess, that you can do with all the universities. What direction, how long, but I found with all his reasoning kind of intriguing suggestion for us to handle. So what is then next? to base upon, there is of course a lot of urgencies that I would like to share. If in '67 you look back to the planet, which was, this is simply the illustration for Harari's book that's coming up, is that it was so old at that moment, and where these climates evolved, where say different species came into it that evolved, where incredibly richness came to our life. It was full of complexity, that natural systems. And then 200 years ago, humans appeared. And if you understand that span, and then there were 3 seconds of humanity versus 24 hours of planet. And then we migrated in this 3 seconds. We densified, we formed complexer systems, we influenced the natural world, made networks everywhere, started mining in the crust, and in less than 300 years, we changed our temperature. And in less than 100 years, we changed the oceans and the water system. And in less than 50 years, we altered the very composition of the air we breathe. With alterations that came annihilation of many species and many, say, usages of this tapestry that we call the Earth. We polluted it as the land and the oceans, and we began to lose the riches that was there. So we could lose more. That's what now in the next second we are facing. Warming up, agriculture growing and growing despite intensity, energy surfaces needed, carbon emissions still there, more and more waste, with all the things you know. Water supply is getting in a critical level, and we make more noise, and then we lose forestries, we lose species. 3 seconds gone, and this is then happened, and what do we do in the 4th second? Many quotes are in this book visible, from Bruno Latour, of course, which observes, are we now living on the same planet? The Club of Rome, the risk of collapse is there in our action. And with Gutierrez, making peace with nature seems as a major task also these days. So Bruce tried to make that involved in our design, that nature is always there, and Neri he has to design our way back into nature. So these are some of the quotes. But if I look to the crust and make a section of 10 kilometer down, 10 kilometer up, of say of the planet, and you see how it's constructed in soil, in biosphere, in natural cycles, and how then we invented our activities, then somehow the world of today has an impact. It is with this interference in these cycles, it disrupts it at many places, and that caused the urgencies. To give it a shortcut, what it means, and these are then the inventory of that. So urgencies, you can do one-liners, but they are within that. There are let's say a lot of nuances that most of you are working upon in order to make pieces better of this grand machinery, this big machinery that we call the planet. So we need a planet maker that works on these issues, that puts them in time in the coming 100 to 200 years, that puts them in place on these different maps, and then that can start to notate, say, the urgencies that are there in the different aspects, how that is brought together in one of the studios that we made, how it's visible. So what is then next? If we have that, then I can imagine an agenda appearing. And again, we have to ask ourselves, what don't you want to be? And no one says that he is against responsibility. Well, some. Or openness, or curiosity. No one will say that he's against greenness, or against oxygen, or energy production, or biodiversity. No one is unhuman in his ultimate wish, or even democracy. Most of us want to have it, or freedom is what we love. And most of us also love architecture, don't worry. They want to create beauty or excitement. It's maybe sometimes developers that are hesitating on this part, is what we can see. So there's a wish list of to do. like a shopping list that I can imagine to face and to approach these urgencies. So how to do that then? So I give you some examples of working with that. To be more open, we need more porosity in our environments. This kind of towers we make, and if we want to open them, then these are techniques to make them more there. The tower can open itself and form this kind of pregnant the grotto inside can split to create more corner windows and create more coolness or more ventilation over the time, can turn, and then you have this kind of great gardens in between. So porosity, step by step, here step by step, shown in these animations, in this financial animations, I would say, and in climatic, and leads to, say, an observation where we can compare how good we are with these openings that we can allow for in many of these aspects. I would say beautiful towers could emerge and could create a beautiful, exploration on this openness, on being collective, being more cool, being give more space for this unknown and for water catchment, etc. I think the market hall was an exercise to try that in Rotterdam, using two blocks of housing, bend them together, and create somehow a public space in its very heart where we can buy stuff. It should be more managed by the French developer. I agree with you that it becomes more popular, or say, or even populistic. But in its shape and in its awareness, it leads already to an attraction where the houses are then basically the safety keepers, the guards of what these developers are doing downstairs. And with this triple glazing, it is always part of your background, even if you sleep or work or play around this arch. So one could say it's a Rotterdam version of some of your passages here in Milan that acts indeed as a tool to get and bring people together, to create a space that by porosity is making some kind of sense. If I continue, in last week in Tirana, we opened this pyramid, which was wasn't a building or a structure. It was a mausoleum for him, the last dictator of Albania, Hosha, made by his daughter, and to glorify him forever. That didn't work out. Albania went, but when he died, people took over the pyramid, crawled over it, decapitating him, getting rid of his statue wherever it is, we don't know, where still we are looking for it, and going up and sliding down, putting radio stations in to advertise somehow a new Albania. Now, 20 years later, Albania becomes a little bit more there. From the poorest country in Europe, it starts to become gradually maybe a player or European player. And how can we then deal with that? I mean, if you have this apparatus in that existing situation, how do we make a decision on it? So you talk with many. You go and talk with a parliament, with all the representatives, and you say, what do you want? Do you want to repair it completely, to restore it? No. We don't do that. We are not in Berlin. Or do you want to erase it? Oh, no. We need traces of the past to memorize what happened. But what would you do? Do you want to live with it? And that was, I think, the tool ultimately to find out how can we live with this thing. So we opened it, we cleaned it up. All the rotten parts are out so that it doesn't fall down. That you can go through it. It's actually an open park. You can say with a structure in. We access maximally the tops so that also our grandfathers can hike over, or that the slippery part is reduced. There are parts still in it to bring you to the top. Then we discussed about adding program. So it is invested by, say, the Albanian American Foundation, so say the diaspora, to house basically a school in it, a young school. Tumo, it exists also in Paris, and it wants to give lessons in technology and ecology beside the primary school in the say the end of the day hours. They put a lot of program in it to finance it. So the whole building was full. So we said, no, 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 let's not do it. Let's make the classrooms that are there, but let's spread them over it and put them in the gardens, in the new park that we made, and on the roof and inside, so that we can still continue inside, like a squatted element. And then we can go through it. There is a microclimatic control mechanism, which I think is interesting. Flip flops that so that everything is open, but the rain cannot go in, and that you can continue. And then you have a public, say, pyramid at the moment that is here. So that is done to and orchestrated. So the boxes contain. Well, this one is given to France now, to Macron, so who houses there an economical school in it as a representation of it. This one will be is an Airbnb that you can rent, so to be part of that. Orange in this case. So they have different programs ultimately to do that, and then now it's open day and night, so that you can walk up together and that you celebrate a little bit this overview over this emerging country, if not city. And of course, you are communicating with the school. You can go down, you can walk through the classrooms and see each other, which are dedicated to the different functions and that are needed, and startups that make this hopefully into an instrument of for the next generation. And that spills out into our new forest in different ways, also to stage the theaters that are there, and then turn sometimes in density so that next to streets it appears and becomes more busy. And with that, I do hope that we make something that is addressing this emerging country that is east of you. And with the results as you have been seen, and of course, it was super nice that the European top was there in that building to talk about the unification of East and West Europe. So what is next? If this is a symbol for hopefully for openness, I say the word hopefully. You cannot guarantee political issues, but you can a little bit seduce, or you can make it a little bit provocative. Is what we as architects can do. Humanity is another component in this operation that we still have to perform. I think the vertical village, and I give you some updates on it. We studied how density can be combined with humanity, and by showing this, for instance, if you go to Taiwan or to mainland China and you see what you can choose from, then your choices are very limited, while you are exercising on your own identity. So what can we do? A while ago, we started with this experiment to ask people what they want to make, and to put it on top of each other as an apartment building that grew out. In 10 years now, we can make it. That's what I'm happy to say. Because with all the researchers that are there to find something where you feel this kind of village feeling that you can walk from the bottom to the top, and that you can gradually see how that could emerge now the coming time in both in Taipei as in Shenzhen. We did an in-between step in New York, where a much cheaper version, you can say, for a community, Dominican community in North Harlem, 181 Street, axis of Amsterdam Avenue. So if you know Harlem, it looks like this. You have brownies of a certain scale that are next to each other. And what we try to do is to continue with that by turning it into a kind of heap of program that's communicated through the Dominican people. That means 2-star hotel, a 3-star hotel, a social housing, a bridal, a marriage, a room, the very heart, medical facilities, and a collective viewing point are made out of this stack. And those are, the colors are chosen with them. And on purposely, it should not look like Midtown or downtown, where everything is white, brown, or steel or glass. So in order to create a kind of a destination, say next to the George Washington Bridge, to where you can now go in and walk in between and go up, have your marriage in the hall and outside. And then, of course, when you imagine that there the couple is standing, you have a kind of tear jerker immediately with Amsterdam Avenue behind you and commenting downtown and midtown and celebrating it in the courtyard is what is happening. So this test, one could say, helps to develop it further, both in Taipei as in Shenzhen. So Shenzhen is a bit quicker. Art community that is are currently under construction, and where these different say houses of artist colony come together in this vertical stack with it in between spaces so that you can walk from element to element. So it takes a while for if you have an idea to bring it through. Normally it takes 7 years already from one design to the realization. But in this case, from an idea to realization, takes sometimes slightly more, say 14 years for the first bigger ones to do. So the next chapter that I would like to add is greenness. So you see a lot of green here around. You have a city with Stefano, with the Bosco Verticale, which I love. And I thought, let's make that better. 2019, before COVID, I could do a year in Domus, and I tried to show you a little bit ideas of many people on these urgencies over the planet. And if you look to the green chapter in Domus 2019, you see Avatar, of course, part of it, how beautiful certain scenes are, how New York made new trees, how this building is working, and how it treats its green. How in China, certain elements are beautiful, like this one, Funkus headquarter in Shenzhen, how that is operating. How certain other things don't work that well, to be honest. So we have to evaluate it on time, but try to work it. And even Moscow at that moment tried to get rid of some of the cars by this kind of stuff to add that on it. So, of course, Stefano has to continue. If we can do also this monsters to turn it into some kind of humanity, then we would be much more glad, I think. And he got now the next commission, of course, on the other side. But it would be a dream if that whole neighborhood could transform in the next phase. I was fascinated also, not by Chernobyl itself, but by the documentary of the BBC, and like with the researchers in it, to see how Chernobyl is moved in this 15 years to this kind of situation. So, like some books are suggesting, we don't live forever, and others can live forever. So how can that do that? And beautifully explained. He can do it much, Edinburgh can do it much better than I can do. But to show what is new, forest is there. This, of course, are beautiful moments that not only plants that we work also for animals. These are other clients of my practice. And to see how they are, say, part of it is what this movie is showing. So the green dip is basically the next step, I think, in it. So if which comes out around Christmas, where we dream of another kind of Hong Kong, where we do that by looking to all the species in every biome all over the planet, and we investigate with knowledge of others that we how much they need and how much they give in terms of water management, in terms of cooling, in terms of leaves, of life, of animals, of fruits. So to extend that all around. If you combine that with new products, balconies is one, but if you can do that also with stuff that you can see sometimes here, with walls that are more porous, with furniture that has another kind of way of dealing with it, and I dream about another kind of IKEA, say a Greek Kia, green Kia, where we have products that somehow try to mitigate with that desire of being more green and using our products for that. If you then apply it on any part of the canvas of the world, and here a piece of Manhattan, and you start to select these products and you put them on facades, on floors, inside or on roofs, and you calculate the effects for this block, then actually at the end of Broadway, you can have something which is better than New York is performing at the very moment. And here, this program analyzes these aspects in all its ingredients and how is they ultimately also the solar radiation reduced. It means that uh, Fifth Avenue will look nice, I think, ultimately. And it's what you're trying to do here in Milano, but I think we should go one step further. We have to go inside, and we can imagine indeed, as some of this was discussed, if you can also do it in more drier climates. That's a question with other kind of species and other kind of water retention. And yes, you have to construct it in wood, I know, but this is what this dream is considering. So if we make this like better movies these days, for instance, looking at Hangzhou, how that could be, say, more green. I will go further into it. Then you get every biome gets its own, say beauty. Or if I go, maybe Singapore is also not bad. It does it quicker. So this movie show a little bit how what you can do in 15 years. That one, this is my fascination, of course, to turn it into something nicer. And so this recent film tries to show it more in more detail how we can imagine its components. It is shown in a traveling exhibition in a surround environment, currently moving to Hong Kong and then to Seoul. And they measure a little bit the effects. In short, if you put all the roofs of the world, flat roofs, in this way, then already I can drop the temperature almost 1 degree, is what it says, which is a lot to do that. And you can see how it's there's two components. This temperature drop, but it kind of explained and how that would happen. So these calculations are in that book to show a little bit the effects. And of course, this is not hyper scientific. This is done with the knowledge that we have, let's say an AI knowledge, you can say, to explore it. But it gives some kind of hope or reasoning. I know I forgot the animals in that study. So the next book is about this biodiversity. How to tackle that is if you have a wolf, the wolf needs all this to eat with the habitats that go along with it. If we select for that and we have the products that this new catalog that we could do, and we placed again on that zone, here are some new products to activate that. Then these are the images that come out of that, and then we know how far we can go with our habitats. And right now we are working on a three-dimensional composition. I cannot show it yet to make it more, to make the abstraction even bigger. I mean, Seoul was all about that. The bridge in Seoul that we transformed into a high line, but not a high line as like in New York, but because it's a viaduct, and within a kind of botanic garden where we test how much these pots need. From A till Z, from left to right, every species are montaged in this bridge and collect therefore a kind of design which is surprising how it's now growing these days and how it's monitored by the botanic faculty in Seoul to see what we have to do and how we can learn from it. So there are two elements that I would like to stress and that you can see here in these bridges. More bridges are in. We made 3, now there are 6. And the coming time, there are another 6 coming, one to Lotte, for instance. And here another one, another developer that does it. This one is cute because he uses the trees in the same way and just brings them up in that language that was maybe invented by others, but comes in a vertical situation. So I love it. So this is what happens. This is how it's now going into that direction. So it's similar to some other places in the world. It inspires this environment. I think the depot I want to show you in this also to say something about that. It is it's not a museum. It's an archive building. It is a building where you can select more or less what you want to see. Um, it is a vessel. The foundations are thin because there's a lot of water that we want to keep below, and the combination of pooling, anchors, and heaviness creates this building and the shape of it. It can be opened like this to go in. Some of you might have gone into it. The art starts high at plus 10 meters, and from there, this depot is made with doors and windows where you can see the different climates, how they are stored, and you can see Rembrandt next to Mondrian by your own choice. Sometimes pulled out and ending and culminating, I think, in the garden, a position where two things are happening besides eating is exhibiting. Any location where you can test art is what this building is doing outside and inside. And here we tested also a forest. How much soil does it need? How much wind protection do I need? How much, say, pockets do I need to make it? So this is after 1 year how it looked like. So I'm super happy how we can monitor that, and it becomes like an exemplary component. And this pot, this depot, symbolizes not only the city and not only the art inside, but also the sharing of this green roof and to test how it functions. So it's monitored by the universities in Amsterdam and Rotterdam to see what species come in, how many bees go there. Bees cannot jump 40 meters. So that's already proven. It's hard. They make their nests, but then so this one is easier. And for that, which we monitor at the same moment, Amsterdam, a building with 3 towers to be made, but we crawled away the towers so that they create like a place that every house has a balcony or a terrace and has a bay window to look around, and creates therefore a kind of communication device with a mirror that reflects the environment. And with Peter Oudolf, we made the gardens in different tests to do that, and we get a kind of say symbolic action of having a mirror building that is crawled away and turned into a kind of new El Dorado that offers another kind of perspective for a kind of CBD. So similar to what I showed to Stefano, but then that could happen here, but here in Amsterdam, constructed. So this is during construction here, how it's now happening, how you can walk in these gardens, a public park that is there. We can go up, see the species emerging in between at every, say, zone. Terraces are coming in almost Singapore style, which doesn't exist. How the species are, I mean, you do it as well, we do it in different climates, you can say, and how these pots are coming up. How water is used from the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom to cycle and recycle and filter in these bassins. You can look through the pond. Then the grotto below is activated by museum and different retail functions, and we go out again and see how it's now used by as a park, a vertical park. What is different in this case? Whenever I'm on a balcony, I don't have vertigo because I can only fall 1 or 2 stories. So that's different than in a normal tower where you have that aspect. And the terraces have always like something above each other. So here, how you can see them from above, how the building is made almost a sequence of terraces. You might wonder how to design. This is fully scripted. So all the parameters of cost, wind, shelter, privacy, light are put. Size of the balcony and size of the cantilevers are put in, and has an ultimate result in when you optimize it. This was the only way also to convince the client to make the shapes and to produce them prefab both inside as outside in the in the construction world. You might also wonder, how can I inhabit such a house? Because normally a house is square, minimized, and you put your table in it. So we made an interior package for these are rental houses where you can choose your kitchen, or you can choose your combination of couch and chair, or you can choose your table and your bed, and you put them, and then you have leftover because nothing is straight inside. So what do you do with leftover space? And that's a beautiful collection. Next time I will show it. It's not too short. Here you put your onion basket for when you cook, or here you put your mini bar or your chaise longue in it. So these over corners are, I think, a nice part of the inhabitation. So what is next? I bring you, because there are more subjects. The water issue is touching our built environment more and more, both in the sweet water as well as in the salty water. The environment to do. You have seen last Saturday how the Netherlands is protesting against this climate change components, and of course there were some confusions in that march. But here, how we are working together with the state of the Netherlands with the sea level rise catalog, how to adapt that to the rivers and to the swamps and to the dunes, and what kind of elements could be addressed in the buildings to transform here Cooper's Park into this direction. The next one is to do text tests in Tainan, which is in Taiwan. It used to be the greenest city of Taiwan. Well, you now go down there, it looks terrible and too hot. So there are a couple of things that we do. We transform all the pavements in other pavements. We make more ponds under the pavements, and we make another kind of plantation. But also these buildings, the new plots, here this department store, we removed it. They had to put the debris down in the cellars because the sea level would push it up too much, and to compensate the weight, and then put extra water in it, and that water at the moment cools that environment. It's used surprisingly enormously by Tainan people. Firstly, kids come in and they undress a little bit. Then daddy goes in. Then maybe mom goes in, and in the end now also grandma is participating in what you normally see in Copenhagen or in Zurich. And so this is nice to go there and to have this swim. You might wonder, how do we deal? There are a couple of things. How do we deal with dengue and mosquitoes? There are seasons, the water goes down. That's correct to do that. That's so about like 6-7 weeks, depending on the species and depending on the climatic moment. So the stuff we use is say equipped with that. Does it give temperature drop? Yes, 5 degrees because it's a pit to address that. And are the leaves in the end also useful? Yes, they are, but they are too young now to make it happening. So also in the evening, it's a place to go, and it helps, I think, a little bit to activate Tainan into this new direction. I tried to do something in Milan. It's of course impossible, but it's like to say what you can do. My Lago or Milago was an effort in Ex-Plasmon, which is a cute environment on that corner. It used to be a factory, and then boom, it's gone and transforms into a housing. And where the developer wants to have towers. So I said, why do you want to have towers? Yeah, because that sells better. So we tried to do, we lost, don't worry. So because we said no towers, please, but do the same density, but use a kind of 9-story high block as you do, and repair this part of the city in that way, and create with that block then a space where you want to go to, and which is a kind of the cool block, so to say. If you analyze the parks in Milano, many things, especially in Porta Romana, it is not so many. There's one extra coming soon, which is nice by the next speaker tomorrow to dedicate to that. It's also very closed, many of the spaces, and the precipitation and temperature management could be helped, especially in these peripheral situations. So what did we do? If this is the site, these are, of course, your laws are tremendous, and you have to deal with that. make a destination, open up the site, make that block, which I think is the weirdest block you can do, like a zigzag block that you can imagine, with patios that are next to it. Put a different program next to each other instead of set, and then shape that block in such a way that you can create space for growing plants. You can tame the wind going down, and you can make terraces for water that's collected in this small lago on the floor, and then to reuse that for it. How does it look like? This could be this repair act, and with the greenest courtyard made in Milano, where you can go in from the side and explore this Lago Minore in the heart of it, and how we can then transform it into a cooler or a cooling device day and night to have it. As I said that, I hated it because it was not towers in that way. I think it's a pity, it's a missed opportunity on this corner to be frankly and to make housing for middle class and lower middle class, which is this is cheaper to construct with all the qualities that we have. I'm almost there. So what is next?
Sono le 18, chiusura della mostra Mode Expo 2023. I signori visitatori sono legati di avviarsi verso l'uscita, grazie. Fiore Milano e Milano.
Four languages or one language?
Ringraziano per la presenza ed auguro una buona serata. Your attention please explain closing time of the exhibition of Mode Expo 2023 edition. All visitors are kindly invited to leave the exhibition area. Thank you. Fiora Milano and Niba, together with the Mode Expo. Thank you for the visit and wish you a pleasant evening.
So, how to use our buildings also to create energy is we have to use the instrument of the hyperbole to make the efforts more visible. Is what we try to do. We try to do that in Grand Paris, where we cover now in a new law all the roofs, even in Haussmann, with solar panels, the new products that are in. We work on it here next to Hong Kong on this solar flowers to make beautiful solar plants that move around through the water. With Tencent, the Google of the East, we make this city that where it's completely covered with the solar say roofs that demonstrate because of this shapes maximally the visibility of that attempt. On the coast of Taiwan, we make this sun rock where we for the Taiwan office company, where everything is cladded with its instruments, dedicated. All the windows, all the doors have this component which is currently under construction. And in Shanghai, we make this new kind of pergolas, because I know you don't have to cover it immediately on the roof. It's better to make this pergolas that gives this space for the solar mount, all these panels, and having immediately also a shaded component how it's under construction at the moment. And in Hangzhou, this neighborhood, former oil factory, every building will be also done in this composition with this new kind of panels that we try to make, which generate energy, which have different, say, transparency, and create therefore any mixage and communication, energy and transparency in one go, inclusive, say, this silos that are there. And last week in Prague, just to give you an example what you can do with energy, if you fly to Prague, this is what you see. If you look to Google, it's super green. And if you touch down, there our new buildings are coming. And you see the airport, how it looks like. And now the new terminals are coming. What do we do at the university in the Czech Republic, in Prague, is at the same moment we are working on like a vision of the Czech Republic. 10 million people queued. What can they do? Now with the new European agencies there, becomes the heart of, say, the East European campaign. that leads ultimately, I think, to Ukraine, and to celebrate a little bit with them what you can make in the Czech Republic. So here you see the map that is traveling around in the Czech Republic, where all ideas of students and of NGOs are put on that map as a kind of tool to express the necessities from a new TGV line, high speed line that works, from better Moldau that creates and keeps water before it goes away to the Netherlands, with new corridors for bears and wolves, with another way of dealing with waste, instead of these mountains of waste that are produced, of concentrating windmills in specific art installations, and think about like where housing should go to, is what these elements are showing. So back to the airport. So what can we do on this spot? And where these are the new terminals, the non-Schengen terminals that are coming up, and where we make this building, but we always put in between any program of this airport a forest, small forest. They have not enough money, like in Singapore, to make this central forest, so we do it in between, adjust the GFA, make them the hall with 4 cores, and then you have it. And then this is we continue with the second part of that operation and the third part that is there. And then it helps basically to establish a new boulevard. Here we cover it complete, I mean, it's a wooden structure, and we cover it completely with the solar panels that, with all its details, that this is a detail of that. But when you zoom out, you see this, and you can see the villages or the cities that are suggested in it, both inside and outside. So they are operated in different panels. That should be here next time, by the way, in this exhibition, to show it, where you can see it from inside and from outside how Prague, how Czech Republic, CZ is working with the program that is over there. So we cover these boxes completely with this kind of cloth of this type that are there and that indicate where you are in, say, is it in Moravia here on the right, is it Sudetenland or in Bohemia, and you go into these terminals, and then you can see how you are maneuvered through the forest, seeing the city and the country above you before you go away from your country and leave your space. All other program is hidden behind this cloth. This is one of the business class lounges, but you can see how that it's combined with a view to the environment. And with that, I think that we have a step to continue with the other boxes of this airport and to create something which is not there, which is different than Zurich or than say Schiphol, and create maybe also then a method to combine one with the other and to make a hyperbole out of that. No. Of course, we decarbonize. As last one, like the decarbonization is important. And your laws soon will also be part of a kind of carbon tax, and by so we have to calculate that not only by the European tools, but also inside of our any product that we would like to do. So you can make it in wood, like here in Paris, say maximum 6 stories high, nice interiors in wood. You can compartmentalize towers in 6-story high, small buildings, fire compartment, and then another one, so that you can, that in Sydney Harbour, that we are doing with this kind of decarbonized elements. We do it in a way that everything is demountable, like here in this building in Amsterdam. These are all the products that we made and that we use, and that are all have no, say, gluing or any material that's a kind of composite, and that's how it looks like. So what is next? If you do that, it's kind of a, and then I come to the conclusion just after 6. There's where I think we arranged in such a kind of composition, something ingredients, there are more, the book will talk about more, about Biotopia. If I look from now to then more, and I see to the materials, I spoke about the relationship between man and plants, man and animals, near man and materials. We see alternative bricks coming out that are recyclable. We see nanomaterial or metamaterial where we can, say, program our facades and our material to do other kind of actions with it. We see bioengineers coming up to help us to make other kind of bricks or to work from deep 3D printing into unprinting that we are going to show in this book. We are developing already more than the algae in Hamburg with, say, different, say, inventions of other kind of green matter or combination that can do that, and then our cities gradually start to become more intense. Of course, we talk about networks and the mushrooms in itself. They are very naive and little, but don't forget that they can inspire, and there's a trajectory to coming up to make them better and to make tests that they only also can say be wet or that they can grow under other kind of circumstances. That's what I think we have to do. And if we even train some of our species with new DNAs to do even construction and methods, then I can dream about the World Expo building the next time that grows by itself. But also that demontages, say from an epoch, say Bosco Verticale, it transforms them into more kind of hipster environment in the nearby future, which can dismantle and mantle. What of course our task is to make a blend, a collaboration of these materials. Now, this thing doesn't work with me or with other kind of. So if this, in this axis, you see the state of the art of 3D printing and this in time, what it can do, then they fulfill certain kind of properties. But if we can start at a certain moment that, say, this breathing skin collaborates with the concrete or collaborates with the algae, then something nice is happening. This is what we call the new laminates, not a true laminate, but it's a collaboration between those material. What we try to foresee, and then we dream, say, about a material that is fully recyclable, that gives life, that can grow and can shrink, that can bend, etc. All these wishes, how to give that space. Once we started in our habitat with a wish list, but now we have to update that wish list again and to put it into a biological perspective that helps on where I started today on this cycle, that transforms some of our cities in this operation that leads here a film of the students in the Kunsthalle, how that can flock together and move around, and then maybe dreaming about a planet that gradually uses that for its composition, for its fields, to house and hold the water, to make other kind of cities, to use also the salt water for that. And then maybe I turn, say, the natural or the unnatural into natural. Again, if I look to biology enables, culture forbids, or nothing is unnatural from a biological perspective, then I am maybe working on that evolutionary city in a perspective with, say, these directions. And then we can say that maybe this age of biology that certain people are predicting can get kind of architectural meaning. And with that, I do hope to give you a glimpse, exactly in my planned time, in an hour, how great I could dream of the making of this Biotopia. Thank you very much for your attention. Any questions or comments, of course, if you're in Italy? Nada? Or do you want to go? Do we have to go? No, please ask things. That's for me also very fruitful. Was it terrible?
No. They're all shy.
Well, they were too fast.
A little.
A little.
I'm breathless.
It touches about things. Some of the things, pieces are known. I try to group them into a perspective. That's true. But it needs more time and to consume. Okay. Other comments? Excuse me?
You have to buy the books.
You have to buy books. I'm a seller. I'm trying to sell bookseller.
May I just,
Yeah, you want. Okay, come back to you.
and thank you so much for the presentation. It was super inspirational, first of all. And second of all, I was thinking maybe Adobe could be a really useful material for these kind of projects because, you know, it comes from nature and it's right now with some research doing in Turkey, it's been improved by some professors that can be more strong material that we can use. Maybe it could be considered. What do you
Please
think
give.
about it?
Please give me the link, give me the material, because it's an invitation. I try to a little bit to grasp things together. If I look to the website of ETH, then you cannot see that. So that is what I miss, and also I miss that also at MIT. But we still have to group that material a little bit with each other. So please come to me or send it to me on my
That would be an honor. Thank you so much.
Yes, no. I think it's you will be credited. Don't worry. I'm not
No, it's
not copying it. That's just doing it. Where's yes.
Attrazione permitiamo gli espositori di Other Expo 2023 a disinserire il piatto elettrico dell'osservo prima di lasciare il proprio stage. Grazie. Your attention please for the exhibitors at Other Expo 2023 edition are having invited to disconnect the electrical system of their rooms before leaving their own store. Thank you.
My question was about the maintenance costs. If you have thought about how much expensive it would be to go towards the transformation, since it's very it's very difficult also for the main example that I know is the most converted the nearest to me that I know as a high cost of maintenance.
Maintenance is part of our life, huh? To start with. Without maintenance, what do? We only go on holiday, or we are only scripting. Is what so the whole leisure industry is also ahead of us, and I'm somewhat worried about that. So to maintain our society is anyway good to invest in. Secondly, let's start with the Bosco Verticale and other things. I think the Bosco Verticale is differently maintained than the valley. In the valley, we have two ladies for this 350 units that maintain it all year round. How much do they cost? Around 100,000 euros with all the material, or 80,000 euros per year. Divided under 350, I think that's reasonable to see it. So the word, it's very expensive, take care. Certain people say that. So in a way to give it a place is what I would like to ask for. Third chapter, Husqvarna. I'm working with them to make new scissors with that can fly, so that they can maintain it from a distance. Right. This is that's a beautiful new kind of instrument that comes out soon to address that. So actively we have to work on this matter. There is of course a tendency, fourth part of the remark, to work to self-maintained plantations. There are two steps in that. One, simply have other kind of plants, have automated water devices that do that, have say new species that stop growing, so that become fatter, that is, instead of growing up. It's the kind of Japanese technique that you could apply without. So these researches are undertaken by your agricultural university and in Wageningen are already under kind of development to see that how that can behave. To fourth or the fifth generation of maintenance will be of course that it becomes material. That I try to discuss that a little bit in Biotopia. For instance, if I do 3D prints at the moment with concrete, but I start to add soil in it, other kind of things, but let's do that test. That's under construction now. What can it contain? How much can it contain? How much water goes through it? How fat does that wall need to be? Is a way of doing, because you get certain species, small ferns, mosses in it, and they stay long, huh? And mushrooms, and that kind of, so it depends. So you start to blend it in. That intrigues me also in that operation. So hopefully this gives an answer to your question. I don't want to focus only on this phase one. I think we have to bring it into perspective and not to stop also with this kind of tests. I dream about like a next expo in your place where we make houses everywhere, and every house does something on it. It shows that. That is, we do that in Delft University. We have these houses now, and every house try to test this kind of parts, paid by European funds, fair enough, and a little bit by developers. But I think this combination will be so wonderful. We'll do that also in other places to get it tested. Another thing is the law. Like you will have carbon law soon now. The carbon in whole Europe it will come. I'm very happy that your developers are already undertaking that exercise. There might be more laws. The law on water might cause also much more plantation. If we have to store water longer in hot climates, you're part of that. Then I think you want to keep that on the roof or in the cellars and to filter it in that way. Rotterdam has now a new law on the roofs, a bylaw, no national law, so to get that done. Then maintenance is somehow not completely considered. A little bit, of course, in the whole population, but not too much. So I was fascinated by your remark because it's to me like a killer. If you ask that to other architects, he's out, he's dead. But I try to give the perspective a little bit. I don't want to give up. Okay. Other questions?
No.
Ah. Sorry.
Can you hear me? Right. Just had a little question. It's actually related in a way to maintenance. When you presented the projects that had the pool that was regulating the temperature, you mentioned about insects. And so I'm thinking for Biotopia and all the other projects where there's a lot of plants, and specifically from I'm from Nigeria, we have a lot of mosquitoes. So I'm just trying to think, what are you thinking about in that sort of direction?
That's a good question. The dengue answer, it's sort of mosquito. We worked upon in Tainan. In Angola, we do a study on mosquitoes. What kind of plants could be in a city when shadow is needed? So species is one solution. Water management in another way. So with ducts and pipes is another way if you want to balance it out. So the density could increase in Angola with such a kind of treatment when not causing. Yeah, in general, you want to, of course, have a kind of say forest where one predator eats the other. So also the design, therefore, of our cities could be inspired by that to create the hunters and the predators inside. So the Green Roofs Act in Rotterdam or in Amsterdam is combined with the biological observation, also there mosquitoes. What kind of birds do we want to have? Or what kind of amphibia should be there to eat some of these monsters to deal with that? So they're the same research. I was explaining about the bees in the depot. That didn't work. But the bees in the valley, they can jump 3 meter from one floor to the other one. That has now been proven. So you have to study it a little bit before you can have a proper answer. I know there's a defense mechanism. Because if you have wolves in our environment, people protest against wolves. Well, maybe they can live in certain kind of conditions to do that. So the research what we do is basically speculating on the sizes that is needed to have a good relationship between man and non-man. But you don't, there's more than exclusion, is what I would say.
Within your research, you contemplating the homelessness and food production?
Let's start with food. That's the easier part. And yes, so there's another study on food city. What species can grow close by, and which you can to make that selection better. That's done by many people already, but then to visualize already this say first row of food, what we can do more integrated in our cities. We did also a second tier, so that's basically 100 kilometers away projection, what that could be, and that balances. I mean, that is it depends on the diets, but that is it's included in the study. I didn't present it today. So you're homeless. Hey, that's another question for another nature of what's in the word. I didn't, but I at all to look at it, and there are specialists in that integrate that aspect. So I don't know, but there's one thing that might be intriguing if our material becomes rubber, and if we program the rubber, then you will need only a house when you sleep or when you have friends. And you can, of course, the rubber can turn into a new Adolf Loos house, or if you want, for those 3 hours, and then you sleep again. So, what's the biological version of it? Is what we try to embed now after the rubber variant. Yeah, what is then homeless at that moment? Because then we are all homeless in a way, because we are all. So I know this is maybe not a good answer on short term, but I do see a lot of redundancy in our houses also. They're too big. If I can learn from homeless, then in a way is that's we spill also a lot of our cities with that. And the tendency of tiny houses is in a way not so bad. Come on. The whole discussion on 30 square meter studios, how to make them more optimized. Some people hate it, I know, but on the other hand, it's not bad. So there's these are maybe side answers that I can give from my notion on your double question. Nice questions.
Well, thank you for the lecture. It was very inspiring. A question about more of curiosity, because since we're talking a lot about facades in between buildings and how again the nature to sort of invade them and create a nice synergy. But have you expanded or are you planning to expand the research also, for example, on building techniques, structures, so more elements that probably are also the more carbon consuming if we look at the overall decarbonization process that our cities and our building have to go through in the next years?
I spoke too short about it. That's true, under the pressure of our speakers. But it's like it's in the last research, the Biotopia is about that. So to analyze for every piece, like the ones that I show of one building that we made, or every chair or everything, and to make the same inventory as you were saying. What can we imagine uh, to to speed up the cycle, to make it more biological? We try to make that inventory. So that's one. The second step is that they collaborate, as I said, very shortly, so that the chair can become a bed, or that there's also a lot to win, huh? Or that a room can become also something else, or that this material can also glow, so that it gives light. The test of Daan Rozengaard with the asphalt, I think it's still nice, no? And so that's also a blend of different aspects, different properties of material, and that engages itself with CO too, but it engages itself also with the wishes that we have, the desires that we have. So the necessities are like the wish list that I started at the very beginning of this afternoon. That they have to fulfill all these questions is what I would say. And yes, we have to concentrate, and but it's my role, I think, to add on and to then and then others do the debris of that action. You should not be in the Republic now, but that's to add that in. So your observation is correct. Next year. Other questions? All clear?